So here we have a scene from A Quiet Place, and this is a recreation. I will grab a still. And I will reset my reference sizing. And I will reset my nodes. So this is where we start. I do a CST, where I go from Rec 709 to my output gamma Cineon film log. I go to my balance and check the parade. And I like to boost up my contrast. And lower the exposure. So this looks pretty good. So the overall look of this movie is very warm, so it is okay that it's already shifting towards red and yellow. So I will reset this one, my balance, and keep it as it is, maybe lower the exposure. Then I go to my RGB mixer and do a soft 2-strip. I will check my reference. So it's not really small. So I will lower my key output to, I set it maybe to 10% or 20%, as you can see here in my scopes. Then I will apply the Kodak 2383 and I choose the D55 because it's warm. If you look at our reference, we can see that red and green is very high and blue is lower in the highlights. So it makes sense that we choose the D55 instead of the neutral 65. So this is neutral and this is warmer. So I go to my balance and reduce the contrast a bit. Then I switch to my vector scope, go to my offset, and I shift the offset to the right just to have a good look of the shape of my trace here from my reference. Maybe I will lower the vector scopes a bit. And maybe I want to rotate the U a bit. And I shift this in this direction. So this is a pretty good match here already. I switch to the grade which I did last year. And this is a new grade. So maybe I will increase the key output here. In my RGB mixer, then I'm going to lock and I try to match my highlights. as you can see here, to get a similar color for the sky and for the highlights. So I'm going to lock and go to my highlights, and then I will reduce the red so it matches the sky. Then I will increase the green and reduce the blue. And if I turn the node on and off, we can see the changes here. And I can also check my shadows, and maybe I will lower the green, and I want also to lower my blue. So now take a look at the shadows here. This is very bluish, and after the correction we have a similar look like this one. So this is the grade from today. This is the grade from the past. Maybe I go back to my balance and reduce the exposure a bit, but not in the lock. In my primaries color wheel. Makes the image a little bit darker. Maybe this was too much. Maybe dial back the contrast a bit. So as I said before, I'm not aiming for a perfect match. I'm just trying to get into the ballpark here and create a similar look. So it doesn't have to be the perfectly the same look. That's good enough. So let's move on to the next film. This is a still from the film King Richard, and we will try to recreate the look from King Richard. So this is a grade from last year. And as always, I will reset my notes. And we start with the color space transform from Rec 709 to Cineon, film log, gamma. Then I check my balance, and I can already see that it's pretty good balanced. So I can increase the contrast and my saturation, but the whites are very neutral. And this looks pretty good. So you can always move the offset around and see if it looks more neutral. But to me it looks pretty good. Then, because this is a very warm film, as we can see here, in the highlights, the red is higher than the green and the blue. I will choose Kodak 23H3 D55. I go back to my balance and reduce the contrast. And if I choose a D65, again we have here neutral highlights, but we want warm highlights. So we choose D55. So this looks good. Then I go to my vector scope. And take a look at my reference image. And take a look at my shape of the trace. And it looks pretty similar. So I do my RGB thing. So now we have a 2-split. And I open it up by lowering the key output. And maybe I set it to really low, to 10%. And here I will increase my contrast and I will lower my exposure quite a bit. So it's a very flat look. So I will go back to my parade so you can see what's happening. So on the left side we have the reference image, and on the right side, as you can see here, we have our grade. So if I move the offset, the exposure, so now you can see it here. I move the whole image up and down. Now I will add some contrast. Maybe change the pivot a bit. So this looks okay for the moment. Now go back to my vector scopes and use the offset. And as always, I like to shift the offset more towards magenta or in another direction to see if I have to make a U rotation. But this looks pretty good already. But I don't like the color of the shirt. So I move the offset more towards magenta, so the shirt gets more neutral. Then I go to my balance and lower the exposure. Go back to my offset. And rotate my U and the offset wheel. And I'm not going for a perfect match, so as you can see, if I warm up my skin tone, it will also affect the neutral color here in my shirt. But you just have to go back and forth. So now I will add some grain to the footage. I like to start with the 60mm 500T. I think this one looks pretty nice. So I will increase the opacity. Then I will increase the softness. Dial back the opacity a bit. And this looks pretty good. So this is without grain and this is with grain. Let's look at the grade I did last year. And this is today's grade. I think I have to go back to my log and check my shadows. This is our reference image, and we can see that the shadows are not crushed and are very lifted. So we can also see it here in the hair. So here in my log, I go to the log wheels, and then I will brighten up the red and the green a bit, and also the blue, but I keep the blue down because we have this reddish tone in the shadows, and if I increase the blue, it's getting blue, so I keep this one down. So now the dark greens also looks better. So this is before, and we have blue shadows, and this is after. And now our shadows are more green. We can also lift it up a bit. So this is today's grade. This is the grade I did last year. Maybe I bring back the exposure a bit. So I think today's grade looks pretty good. So I have more neutral whites. So it's still a bit yellow. What we can also do is go to our log wheel and not only change the shadows, but also the highlights. And you can see it here. So in our reference, when you look at the vector scopes, the red, green and blue is all lined up, or the blue is a little bit lower. When we look at our image here, we see that the red is way too high, and then there is green, and then there is blue. So we reduce the red output, maybe increase the blue. And now it's more neutral. So here the shirt is a little bit too yellow, and after that it's more white, and it still looks fine. The overall image still has the look. So this is our image without the log, and here with the log. So this is before, and this is after. And this was the grade from last year. This is today's grade. And this is the reference image. Let's move on to the next film.